Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Ron's Weekly Windup. Here we are on October 22nd, 2025, and I'm joined this week with our media specialist from the Twin Falls area, Bryan Hyde. Bryan Hyde's a show host, and he'll be hosting this episode of Ron's Weekly Windup. So, Bryan, take it away.
Well, Ron, actually, I feel like I've come here to kind of absorb your wisdom on a few topics that are really timely right now. Although I'm going to be like I'm going to be like a kid with dinner in front of me. I'm going to start with what I consider the broccoli of things we need to know, the budget state in Idaho.
Mhm.
Um, for those who are trying to get their minds around this, help me understand the bad habits that got us to the point where the budget, the overspending, and the counting on spending increases cannot be counted on any longer. What were some of the habits that set in motion the mess that now is going to be addressed by the next couple of legislatures?
That's an excellent question. For the last 6 or 7 years, we've been on the watchtower sounding the alarm saying, you know what, your government's out of control. They're spending up everything. It seems like tax collections are rolling in higher than expected. In fact, a couple years there, we had a surplus of like $2 billion, and that's with a $13 billion state budget. And so we were going, maybe you ought not spend this up. Maybe you ought to do tax cuts, restrain government spending, because while these are fat years, so to speak, if a lean year comes along, you're going to be in a pickle if you've overcommitted. And sure enough, here we are. That the budget passed last year was the highest budget ever. It again piled on 5 years of 55% budget increase, made it a 60% budget increase over 6 years. And we said, this isn't sustainable. And sure enough, we were right. The governor says, hey, you know what? Revenues are coming in, excuse me, tax collections are coming in lower than expected. We're going to have to do a holdback, but not on education. We'll hold back other budgets by 3%. I'll tell you what, Bryan, this is a pickle. I'll tell you what, my friends in Idaho, this is a real pickle the governor and the legislature have got us into because by our analyst best estimates, Fred Birnbaum, he says that Idaho is over $500 million behind forecasts. And that means that we are going to be ending, even with the 3% holdback, $154 million in the red. Now, if you take into account tax conformity, which means that some of the federal tax cuts translate into state tax cuts as well, we're going to end up this fiscal year about $300 million in the hole. And that's with all the adjustments already made. To top this off, two other things happening that agencies will undoubtedly be asking for supplemental budget assistance for overruns that some of them experienced during the year, wildfires or whatever. So when you put in the supplemental budgets, that's going to put us even more behind the eight ball. On top of that, getting ready for next budget season, agencies submit their requested budgets for next year. And it's like they can't read the room at all. These agencies have submitted budgets that are asking for 11.9% more on general fund, 13% more on dedicated fund, overall about 12.5% increase over and above this year's budget, which is over bloated anyway. It is a real pickle. The governor's going to come back. The legislature's going to come back. They're going to say, oh, well, we're going to have to cut budgets. And I'm like, hello, that's where we are. But I'll tell you this, Bryan, not only should we cut budgets, we should cut taxes too, because this has been falling on families far too much. Increasing the budget like our government has put a burden on families. And Idaho Freedom Foundation has laid it out. You can remove the grocery tax. You can put in the 6 year, 7 year phase-in plan of removing property taxes. You can cut government spending and have a balanced budget, lower than it is now, back to pre-COVID numbers, and have two taxes wiped away from the citizens. And it can be done. You just need true conservatives.
Ron, talk to me about your reaction to the No Kings rallies that took place across the country this past weekend. I understand that Idaho Freedom Foundation actually had some brave souls out there to just kind of see what things were like on the street, and
Yeah.
it was scary.
It was amazing. We sent our comms director, Jake Wyman, and our policy director, Rachel Hazlip, and they teamed up with a TP USA person and our media specialist. And they recorded some interviews with some of the attendees, some of the participants, some of the clowns, if you will, at the No Kings rally. And just priceless, priceless interviews.
We're here at the No Kings protest. We're asking some questions. We're standing here in our MAGA hats, and a massive crowd started forming.
And on that video, you will see two things to look out for. First of all, it's engaging 7 minutes of video, but there's two ones that stood out for me. One was the interview with the self-professed teacher in the Boise School District. And she talked about how they removed pride flags from her room, but she was able to put up an everyone is welcome sign and able to put up rainbow stickers. And she's really distressed that she can't have everything in her room.
Because the legislature has changed the law to where I am no longer allowed to reference LGBTQ materials in my lesson plans.
And the follow-up is, well, would you be okay with 10 commandments or Bible passages? And she goes, no, because not all my kids are Christian.
How do you feel about bringing the 10 Commandments or Christianity into school?
No, because we have refugees in our school that are not Christians and worship different gods.
Not even understanding her own irony. It was just amazing. Priceless. You got to look for that. The other one is this guy who vaping during the interview is talking about how we should have no tyrants, no fascists. And when asked what to do to get rid of tyrants and fascists, agreed that political violence is a fair answer.
I believe that Trump is a fascist, and what do you do with fascism? You use political violence to get rid of fascism.
Dang.
Stunning video. So tune into that. See the clowns that are the No Kings movement. And you can see that when you fund something from leftist king like George Soros, you end up with just a movement full of clowns, not really knowing what they want. All they know is to repeat bumper sticker slogans that they have on the left. But they're an angry bunch. They're not very welcoming. They're not very tolerant.
Fair enough. One last question for you. I understand there is something, I've actually looked at this for myself on the Idaho Freedom Foundation page at idahofreedom.org. There is now a local government page. What is the purpose behind this?
Well, for years, for 16 years now, the Idaho Freedom Foundation has been great at transparency and accountability for legislators and for our governor. So we've developed the Idaho Freedom Index, tracking legislator votes. So when they come home and they're running for re-election, they say that they're a true conservative. Well, their freedom score might betray them. You might look at their freedom score and see that they're an F or a 50% or something and go, they're not really a true conservative. So we've been doing great at that. We also have a spending index. But we see a lot of problems in Idaho governance are not in the legislature, are not just in the legislature or in the governor's office. Sometimes they're at town hall, city hall. Sometimes they're at the school board meeting. Sometimes they're at the county commission. And so there's been a lack of transparency and accountability there from a third party. And so we decided that, you know what, we're going to start directing some resources to that. And so Rachel Hazlip, our policy director, has been following and tracking and exposing waste, fraud, and abuse at the local government level. To this point, we've uncovered like $87 million worth of really just malfeasance in various ways. And so we decided to start a local government webpage. So you can click on the map, see your county, your city. You can follow our resources for how to get involved in local government. And we also put a tool there where you can enter your name and your county or your city and put in there reports of what you think has been going on that's sketchy in your community government. And so reports of potential malfeasance or corruption, just send them to us and we'll do what we can to investigate and expose what's going on. Well, in just a week's time, 56 such reports. 56. Wow. 56 in 1 week. It's amazing.
And so can I ask, what would these range from? I mean, these observations, could it be, I wondered why they had the sprinklers going when, when it was midnight, or are we talking, some deeper issues where we've
Well,
seen something going on and tried to say something?
good question. It ranges from the trivial to the serious, for sure. There's a pothole on my road that's never been fixed. Hey, this money that came from the Idaho Transportation Department was supposed to be used for roads or bridges, but instead it was used to build a car fleet center for the city, including a car wash. And you're like, that's a malfeasance. And so that was one of the things we've exposed. And so there's all sorts of things, violations of open meeting laws, uh, people making decisions behind closed doors, people directing contracts to family members, everything that could and possibly would happen at a local government level. Uh, we're seeing lots of reports. So lots of reports to come from us. In fact, we need to grow. We need to hire some more analysts and reporters here because it's a bit overwhelming. So if you're thinking about supporting the Idaho Freedom Foundation, go to idahofreedom.org. You can see our reports, you can see our local government page, you can see our videos, and you can even hit the donate button if you like.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, thank you. This is Ron's weekly windup. I appreciate Bryan for hosting this, and tune in next week. We'll have another wrap up of the week, and a look forward at the week to come.